I'm back. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's had a pretty mellow day. I know that there are a bunch of people out west that have probably had another bad day dealing with what they've had to deal with. On this installment, there's a couple of things I'd like to address. I'm going to try to keep it fairly quick, to the point. What I would like to first talk about is corporations. Okay? Corporations. I'm not sure about in other countries, but here in America, corporations have almost the same rights as human beings. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. How a business can have rights, okay? I know the people that own the businesses, the employees that work for the businesses, the corporations, they have rights. But really, why? Now, I'm like I said, I don't know about the rest of the world or whatever, and I'm sort of ignorant, I guess. I don't know everything about, or nowhere near everything about businesses and corporations and such, but I do know that it seems to me that it is not quite right that corporations would have almost, really, as far as what the Bill of Rights states, that corporations have many of those same rights, okay, which I feel that leads directly back to, along with many other situations that tend to go on within the business, corporate, legal world. But like I have stated in the last video, and probably in some before that, what we're facing as a species, and I'm speaking of the human race, okay, and it's pretty much, it's in some way or another, it basically affects every person on this planet, every human being on this planet. Now, you could be, well, if you were, you probably wouldn't be seeing this video, but say you were some indigenous person, to some country, an undeveloped country, and for instance, maybe somewhere in Africa or South America somewhere, and you're a group of people that you live with, that you exist with. Maybe you live on the land. You don't depend on electricity or gasoline, cars, and electricity for lights and plumbing. Fresh water, turn the spigot on, you get a clean container of water or what have you. But it may not, affect them immediately. People, that would be in that situation, that environment. But because of corporations, big businesses that have a lot of resources, as in money, wealth to throw around, we'll say they buy the property or lease the property or whatever it is that your group of people live on and survive on, and that's your life. That's what you do. So yeah, it could affect even the people that aren't connected to the internet or what have you. So, which leads me back around to, I think that a lot of the stress, a lot of the strife, a lot of the the madness and the insanity that we are experiencing, we are, as human beings, we're seeing, within our societies, our cultures, and what have you. I feel that it is very strongly attached, the reasons for all this insanity, the causes, the main cause, I feel, is that we have been conditioned to devalue ourselves. Okay? We've been conditioned by the media. Okay? We've been conditioned by our peers, the status quo. So, oh, you shouldn't, you ought to, that's not right. You're going to be, you're weird. That's, no, that's not the way that most people do it. Well, maybe it's not, but look at what most people are doing. They're devaluing themselves, they're devaluing the people around them, and they are devaluing their friends, their family. You say, oh, no. Well, just look around. If someone really, for most people, if they are offered some just astronomical amount of money to do something, or to say something, or to act a certain way, they'll do it for the money. And what has that done? That has reduced that person. And from my perspective, my point of view, my opinion, is that it has reduced that, and it would be something that a person normally wouldn't do or think about doing, and so they're offered some humongous amount of money to do something, to act a certain way, to say a certain thing, whatever it is. You've reduced yourself. You've reduced your value to whatever it was, to whatever the amount of money that was offered to do, whatever the action, the thought, or the action, what you said, whatever. You've been reduced. You've devalued yourself to that amount of money. Look at what happened in Las Vegas, okay? I'm kind of iffy as far as, what actually happened. It's, there's been a lot of information coming out, and, I know what the official story is, but I can't help but wonder and think that what's officially being put out there in the media is accurate, okay? And so you have this person from the official accounts. He's shooting a bunch of people, okay? Well, what would possess somebody to do that? Or what would drive them to do that? What reason would a person do that for? But if you look around in society today, in culture, everybody's stressed out for the most part. Even people that are, say you're, intermediary or whatever, not the highest executive, but you're an executive, say on Wall Street, for instance. Even those people are stressed out, because they're unsure with the economic system globally. It's on shaky ground. And so they're even stressed out. But what I'm addressing here is, let's just call it the majority of the population. The majority of the population is stressed out. The majority of the population are struggling to make ends meet. People are chasing these pieces of paper with the numbers printed on them, or pieces of metal disc, stamped with some insignia or picture or whatever that represent a fraction of whatever those dollar bills, the numbers on those dollar bills have printed on them. So we're devaluing ourselves, and as we devalue, as we are persuaded by these amounts of money or whatever to do things that we normally wouldn't do, we are devaluing ourselves. And remember, I said, the divine spark within us, thinking in those terms. Humans are invaluable. Humans are priceless. There cannot be a price put on a human being's life. Well, it can be, and people do it, but think about it. Really, we're all individuals. We all are of our own conscience. We think, we act, we have experienced different things, we think different things, on and on and on. So remember, we are invaluable. We are priceless. Okay? So I just wanted to clarify that with the corporations and everything, and everybody being stressed out. It's no wonder that we have these atrocities that happen. People just go off for whatever reason. Now, it might be some ideology that they have, that says, oh yeah, down with this, we need to do this or whatever, and they get so stressed out and they say, oh, I'm gonna do something. I just can't stand it anymore. So they go out and they commit an atrocity like what happened in Las Vegas. So day before yesterday. So that is a root cause, and it's like weeds. You can cut a weed, and a lot of times you can spray weed killer on it, and it looks like it withers up and it goes away. But you come back a week later, and that weed is growing again, and the reason that is because the root of that weed has not been eradicated, it's still there. And it's the same with our devaluing ourselves. As long as we are competing or having to compete or conditioned to think that we have to compete to even survive in this day and age with the technology that we have, I find it totally ridiculous. To me, it's not acceptable. I have to accept it, but it's ridiculous, and people don't stop and think about this stuff. Now, and while I'm on this, as far as the devaluation of human beings, I wanted to bring something else up. The other day, sitting there watching television, I don't watch hardly any television, but when someone is here with me, then the television is usually on because they want to watch it. I'm usually doing something else or whatever, but I don't watch a lot of TV. So anyway, this cartoon came on, and I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with it. It's called American Dad, and it's a cartoon about a family. I think the dad's supposed to be a CIA agent or something like that, and they have an alien, Jerry, living with them, and they have a couple of one kid, I think, a son, And so anyway, I was sitting there watching that, and not paying a whole lot of attention to it. But the episode seemed to be about, I can't remember the dad's name, but he and his wife had some kind of issues. They were, which all married couples, have arguments or whatever. It's perfectly natural for people to get upset with other people, especially if they're in a relationship with them. So anyway, the reason they were upset, it had something to do, I didn't see the very beginning of it, but it had something to do with what the dad, his some kind of sexual whatever, he wasn't satisfying his wife or whatever. So when I started saw what was going on, I think the wife had left the house and went out in the woods or whatever and was living in the wild or something. And so the dad had gone to a bar and, he's hanging out with the guys or whatever. And he said, oh, yeah, this is, we're having an issue or whatever about this or whatever. And I think Jerry was actually acting as the bartender at the bar. And it came up that the reason that his wife was upset with him or whatever is because this guy was real straight-laced and, rigid, and not, he just had his ways about him. He's set in his ways and he wasn't changing them. And so it was something to do with the sexual relationship that he and his wife had. And on the cartoon, all of a sudden this song comes on, they're talking about Jerry the bartender and some other people at the bar, they chimed in on this and they started singing this song. And it was, they told the American Dad guy that, hey, you need to loosen up a little bit. What you need is a little kink in your sex life. You need a little bit of kink. And this went into this song about, everybody needs a little kink, and they, on and on, which, hey, it's an adult cartoon. Okay, that's cool. And so American Dad, he got the message, he said, oh, okay, yeah, I'll have to try something, I have to try something new or, something kinky. So he went out to wherever she was staying out in the woods or somewhere, and he found her and she said, oh, miss. And he made a remark or whatever, and I don't keep up with that cartoon, but I don't know if his wife, they portray her as being a pretty liberal drinker, that drinks often or regularly. But he made a comment about her, and it was, or to her, about her drinking or something like that, and it kind of got passed off. It was one of those ha-ha one-liner cartoon joke kind of things. So, they made up and they went back to the home or whatever, and they had, they showed him in the bed or whatever. If you're familiar with the cartoon, you'll understand what I'm saying. So I was like, it kind of shocked me. Not that that's on the cartoon, because, hey, that's, people find that humorous or whatever, or entertainment. But I was sitting there and I turned to the person that was there with me and I said, what time is it? And it was like between 4 and 4:30 in the afternoon. And this cartoon was on, and it wasn't, paper, some kind of paid channel. It was on regular, just cable. Okay, so if it was a normal channel that if you had the local cable television, more than likely you had this channel was included in your subscription. So anyway, it's between 4 and 4:30. And I thought, I said, well, I said, now how many kids do you think are just getting home or have gotten home from school and have watched that video? Okay. Now, some people say, oh, you're just being, whatever, you're being outrageous about it, ridiculous about it, or whatever. Well, when I was coming up, there wasn't stuff like that on television. But what I'm getting at is the subject matter. This cartoon, and nothing against the cartoon creators or whatever necessarily, but it's against the network for actually showing a cartoon that has subject matter in it like that. And people say, oh, well, people, they just, adjust their cable access privileges or whatever that they can set, not allow their kids to watch this or whatever. Probably most parents wouldn't do that, okay? There are probably a lot of parents that they saw stuff like that or heard stuff like that, and even worse while they were growing up, and they're thinking possibly that, hey, I grew up and I'm okay, so yeah, who cares if they watch that kind of stuff? Or they might say, get mad at the children and tell them, I don't ever want to catch you watching that stuff. And the kid's like, hey, okay, well, I'm still gonna watch it, and they won't catch me, so they won't know. But still, what I'm saying is this subject matter, this content was on at between 4 and 4:30 in the afternoon, right at the time probably when most students that go to school, elementary school, middle school, even high school, are at home. Their parents probably aren't home from work yet, a good possibility, since both parents usually need to work these days to afford to, raise a family, keep a roof over their heads, feed the family, whatever, pay the insurance bills, the car payments, the rent, the mortgage, whatever it is. So yeah, that upsets me about the media. And then when you think about the media, it all boils down to the same thing: the devaluation of the human being. Either that television show, that network, now maybe those people that work there at the network that are in charge of doing the programming, maybe they don't care, maybe they don't have kids, maybe they have a totally different perspective on life or whatever, and everything's honky-dory, there's no problems. But in reality, when we look around, when we look at just what just happened, stuff like that, there are a lot of problems. So anyway, back to the network, even considering showing this cartoon that early in during the day, when it's more than likely a bunch of kids are at home without any supervision watching this cartoon, adult cartoon. So it's probably because of a couple of reasons. Their ratings, and ratings equal money. It's more advertising that they can sell on their network, on their channel. They can make more money selling advertisements. Or there's a more nefarious reason, or maybe the two reasons combined, but the other more nefarious reason is that they know that they are manipulating the minds, the young minds of these children, showing them. I mean, I didn't know what kink, K-I-N-K or K-I-N-K-Y, I didn't know what that meant until I was, in my late teens. Now, call me a prude or whatever, but, I just think that this stuff like that, the media, has a lot to do with the stress. Not that it's not all the media, because we also have these people, our employees up in D.C. that are supposed to be, governing, administrating the country, and a lot of them are so crooked. They're on the take. They're looking out for their own pockets, their own welfare, and they could give a rat's ass about any of their constituents. And this has got to stop. I mean, if it doesn't, we're going to crash and burn, folks, and I don't want to see that. And I'm sure, really, deep down, I don't think anybody wants to see that, but everybody is so frustrated and stressed out, and they don't feel, and this is just my opinion on it, I think that people are so stressed out and so frustrated that they feel that they have no options, they have no avenues of, relieving any of that frustration or that stress. And that's kind of, they don't, it's just outrageous. So, it's feeding, it's attributing, it's supporting, it's propagating, cultivating, or whatever, that condition of devaluation of the human being, which in turn erodes, it devalues our culture and our society. And I don't know how else to really put it. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a real shame. I mean, I'm a vet, and I joined the service to protect this country, for what it supposedly stood for, the freedoms and the liberties and, the mutual respect that people had. And, and then you have these people stirring the pot up, saying that they're, feel oppressed or what have you. And there have been a lot of people oppressed. And, I mean, hell, I could say that I was oppressed as well, or suppressed, or oppressed, or whatever you want to call it. But hey, I hadn't had an easy life, and there were a lot of things that I've experienced that I didn't think were quite fair or whatever. But when I went into the service, it wasn't just about me and my family, my friends. It was for all people in America, all of that. And as I've gotten older, I will continue to call out the inequality, just the imbalance of any country's cultures, because there is no reason for people to be just kept down and unable to to be happy, to be free or what have you. And as time, and I've seen over the past so like 30 years, I've seen the erosion of our culture and our society, more and more and more. The prices of things always continue to rise, and meanwhile, the morality of society, the culture, continues to fall. So to me, it seems like what I've experienced, what I observe, is that more value is being placed on money, and a lot less value is being placed on humanity, on human beings. And then we wonder why we have all these problems, and these people are bitching because they're being discriminated against over here, and these people are bitching because they're being discriminated over there, and then there's other people, bitching because these people are raising hell, and why don't they just be quiet and go with the program? Well, I can kind of see and somewhat agree with all these different perspectives, but I honestly feel that the root cause of all that division stems from people and how people think of other people. The human being is being devalued. Oh, and I want to bring up something else about the shooting. Whether it was false flag or whatever you want to call it, okay? But if everything that the media reports is accurate, which I kind of doubt, but if it is, I happened to see a news conference with the sheriff, and I think it was the mayor of Las Vegas or something, and they were talking about people sending in donations for the people and everything, that's cool. But when they brought that up, they said, "Oh yeah, this much money for you and this much money and blah blah blah." And I turned to the person that was with me and I said, "Well, all these donations, well, what they're talking about paying for the medical services to treat these people." And I was like, "Well, why don't these hospitals, why don't they donate something? Why don't they donate their time? The people, the nurses, the doctors, or whatever, they could donate something as well. And not only that, what about the insurance companies? They could donate or write off whatever charges for these people that were allegedly victims of this." So there you go. The corporations, they're not going to give up a dime, and they're going to, it seems, to swing it to their, over to be a benefit of them. They're not going to give up on any profits or anything like that. Oh, no. The people can do that. Meanwhile, we're going to continue to make exorbitant profits off of insurance premiums, off of charging, some of these hospitals, they charge, $10 for an aspirin, crap like that. Oh, you got a dish, whatever it might be, for something, a tray or whatever, and they're, it's maybe a 10-15 cent tray. Well, they're going to charge the patient $1, $2 for this plastic tray or something. Just stuff like that. It's outrageous. It goes back to 2002 or 2008 or whatever, when we just had the most recent downturn of the economy or whatever. And these banks and these people are supposed to be experts, okay? Governments are full of experts on this and experts on that, and the financial, institution, experts on this and experts on that. Honestly, I think the only the expertise that they have is how to steal money from people and how to extort money from people. It is out of hand, and something needs to be done about it. And if we continue to stay divided on all these issues that these issues probably wouldn't even exist if the human being hadn't been devalued in the way as much as it has. I mean, there's no value that should be put on a human being, but we are conditioned to do that right out of the gate. From the time we learn to understand what our parents are speaking, we understand what's on the television. From those times, our entire lives, and we are constantly conditioned and reminded to devalue ourselves and continue to keep ourselves in a devalued, or keep our minds, mindset in a devalued state. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thanks for listening to my rant again. So anyway, y'all have an awesome whatever it might be for you, day, evening, morning, what have you, weekend, whatever. Bless you all, and give it some thought. You may not want to think about it, but just because you don't want to think about something doesn't mean that whatever it is you don't want to think about has disappeared or doesn't exist anymore. Okay? That's all I want to say. Thanks a lot.